So we're here for a different kind of episode, and today in Sudoku, if you stick for it all, August 1st is a very important date in my recovery from some mental health challenges. I don't know that I'll ever be free of having things to watch out for, but August 1st, 2 years ago, was one of my lowest lows. And I'm now 2 years free of having been in a hospital, but there's still things I watch out for and stories I need to be telling, including about last December. So if the near miss was last December, I have to go all the way back 2 years ago to August 1st of 2023 to tell a certain story. I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start with just Sudoku. I'm going to let you sort of leave if that's what you want to do. But I also want to get sort of real with the second half of this talk. So today's news, the first piece of news, is that August is a time that the GAS team runs a guessing game across all of their Sudoku puzzles. This means that there's something about the current post, the puzzle itself, something is on the Discord, and we're going to do our best to replicate what's on the CTT Discord. That is going to help tell you what tomorrow's puzzle will be, what tomorrow's variant will be. There may be a pattern to how this is done day by day. It may be different every day. I've never seen how they did it before. I don't know how they're doing it this year. What I do know is as soon as I've solved for the next thing, I'm going to make sure that the GMPuzzles experience lets you get the full GAS experience of the August guessing game. Recommendations, please put all of your guesses into spoiler tags. You could be right, you could be wrong, but it's not helpful to know sort of a lot of people are guessing one way versus another way. It might sort of, keep things spoilered. Once you figure it out, don't reveal it to other folks either in plain text. Like there's a reason it's a game. Like everyone on their own is hopefully getting a generally approachable puzzle hunt like puzzle to be able to guess tomorrow's puzzle. And if you don't want to do that, also fine. 100% optional. You can ignore it entirely. The GAS puzzles will still be there at midnight every night Pacific time for the next day. And again, like logic can solve the answer of what's coming tomorrow. It's not a random generator. In other months, it might be a random generator or whatever the team has run into last. Just for our audience, I want to highlight this. Let's maybe put it in red. This sort of gimmick that GAS is running is not at all related to anything I've been running. And as I say, they don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what they're doing. We're watching each other, but there's not going to be a GAS gimmick that's used in the story of self-studying Sudoku, and nothing I'm doing that will be useful for the GAS experience. Second piece of news, I've been watching a lot of the stuff that comes out of SudokuCon, and they have an interesting stream, which will be tomorrow, August 2nd at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. This will be a just one cell solving stream. If you never experienced a just one cell puzzle before, I invented this with Wei Wang over 10 years ago. And the idea is that you basically can slowly work your way, sometimes through a hard path. This is a somewhat hard path. Like 1s and 9s form a pair. Those have a pointing pair down to form another 1-9 pair. And now somewhere in the bottom left, there's a cell that only sees one remaining digit as an option. And I'm sort of hovering over it now. If we look for it, there's a 1 from this pair. There's a 2, there's a 4, there's a 5, there's a 6, there's a 7, there's an 8, and there's a 9 from this pair. Everything but 3 is seen by that cell. And this is a real challenge as you're just trying to get good at Sudoku because everyone has weak spots in it. But to have two people trying to solve this together and then a lot of a stream watching, like dozens of people watching, and they'll keep saying, R4C5, 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 whatever they do. Like, I think there's a lot of ways you can someone will start to see the gimmick and get to the answer. And so I think the participation and co-solving of this will be great. If you haven't done all the just one cells we wrote for SudokuCon, good. If you have, there'll be some fresh puzzles too. They were requesting a lot of new variants and things Clover and I were not bold enough to try to make. I don't think a just one cell needs just 5 variants as part of it, but I have no idea what the extra puzzles are. But they're going to have a lot of these coming, and the solvers will be Naverio and the Peddling Pianist, if you know either of them. Even if you don't, it could still be fun to watch, and I'll share the stories I got from watching them tomorrow when I can. Last piece of news, maybe less news, more about participation updates. We've loved those who have been contributing on the blog in different ways. Some are solving puzzles, some are just making the experience in the general channel a lot more fun. And so I really appreciated in the last 24 hours some of the stuff there. I've been having what you might seem as like, why is Thomas so insistent on this thing? I've been asking for haiku on Sudoku, and we finally got some great ones coming in. So I'll just read a few of these. This is from Cole. 81 boxes. I gave all of my digits, but never 0. From Not Jeff. Tripartite constraints, or more in some variants, but scanning I hate. And not my favorite haiku on Sudoku, but my favorite haiku on this moment in GMPuzzles history and like knowing Tom as well. So Tom Collier, who's a good friend and has been a great counterpart to say what's going on, like, are you okay? He says, I don't understand where the puzzle hunt might end and real life begins. And at some times in my life, including probably last December, when the near miss for Thomas Snyder was happening, I think that's a fair critique. And I was getting better at watching out for myself last December. I was not getting better at watching out for all of you in terms of where my outputs were going and if they were controlled in their release or anything else. So I want to tell you a little bit of story about my maturation, but I've got to start through my low point in August of 2023. And if a lot of people don't want to hear this, please feel free to stop now. Like I know some people need help to just even have more mental illness awareness and remove the stigma and other things about this. And so I have tried, as I've been learning, a very challenging thing in my life. And honestly, it reset a lot of things in my life. I had a clear direction in mind in my early 40s, and it was almost completely removed. And I think I'm now slowly assembling, and now I honestly have, for the last few months, I've had a clear direction for the first time in 4 years. This started in 2022. Some people will know or maybe remember vaguely a time this Sudoku champion had this 3-hour crazy YouTube video that was at the start of an exacerbation, certainly slightly manic, maybe psychotic. You shouldn't be making clinical diagnoses. I've never watched this video, I don't know. But I went through some therapy. I learned elements of triggers of stress and lack of sleep that mattered. I felt that having part-time or self-employment status would help. All this led up to still having an episode in August of 2023, which I've never talked about before. And I think the two things that I missed at that time, one that I should have, if I just was more persistent when I wasn't getting answers by psychiatrists or therapists to just have a care team assembled, is I can't address mental illness as an I can have mental wellness as a we. And that includes having a psychotherapist who like talks sense to me when I have all these weird reasons. I like do things my way. Like I have social problems before I have even my mental health problems. I'm still a highly functioning adult, and most people say a brilliant person, but we all sort of have places we have blind spots. And to have an accountability partner, like that's a huge change that's happened only after my August 2023 hospitalization. The more critical one to be aware of is when you're really having the whole system, and at least for my bipolar condition, I describe it as the inhibitory neurons in my brain are a little off, which means when normal firing is going on, crosstalk's happening that normally should be shut down or slowed down. That's step one. The second is my sympathetic nervous system gets active, and it's almost like I'm in fight or flight endorphin mode all the time. And those two together are a dangerous combo. And they're not going to be cured by listening to some songs or going to a dark room and breathing slowly. Those really need medication to do it. And I probably was not accepting of my diagnosis. I wasn't willing to in different ways say, I can't solve this by myself. Like where I'm at today is everything that's in red text, but we have to go through some pain to get to there because there's some stuff that, say, is the lowest moment in my life that happened through other times. I had talked through some of this. Like there's a lot in my videos that have been on YouTube before about understanding pieces of this. Like it still matters to me more that this is a Van Gogh than this is a Van Gogh painting. Like the painting is beautiful, but this is from someone who is not mentally well through his life, and the diagnoses at his time weren't necessarily going to say if he had schizoaffective disorder or bipolar or all traits of stuff. Like these are, some of them jumble up. Like even these diagnoses are poor. Like I for sure have a brain that cycles through mood, and I separately probably have tendencies on other parts of other sort of things. But even some of the puzzles I make, I cannot make if I'm in a normal, healthy state. Should I be making puzzles when I'm in a more creative state, but now on an edge, a precipice that could be on a route to mania? Like, I don't know. Like, I can turn on creativity a bit, but it's not like it's a dial that's easily controlled. When creativity's on, it's on, and where it goes is what I'm trying to watch out for. And so I've been trying to learn by reading from others. Like, An Unquiet Mind is a book, as an example of someone who sort of academic but like managing her bipolar through her life and kind of coming to grips with what it means to actually then be accountable to yourself and having others accountable for and with you to make this work. Like I didn't have all the lessons after the first video. For sure, I didn't have all the lessons in searching for Tommy Snyder. This is the first place I still point people to learn about me, because I talk about my path into science, my loss of knowing what I wanted to do in science after my mental health diagnosis, and my confidence I was probably on the right path. But I'd say some things like, why do I consider my normal biological state, meaning having a bipolar brain, why do I consider that state to be my superpower and my super weakness? And this sentence, which is in the last 2 minutes of this video, still stops me cold every time I hear it. It wasn't a prepared thing to say, but it's like the most true thing I could say to future Thomas, as I sometimes say this. A very human limitation of my intelligence is when I turn it on the most, I'm at the risk of mental illness. Do I choose to live a life I want to live, but now have that risk of a hospitalization, of involuntary commitment, of of me shaving my head and losing my reputation and losing my wealth or losing my house or anything else and being in the worst of states, which I've now observed. Like I go through these programs and I still feel the blessed one that I have some financial ability to have health care and get a psychotherapist. And I have like people who still do watch out for me, even if I've done a lot to burn bridges with them by just being a horrible friend in some of these worst moments of my life. I don't want a drug that's going to keep me from having cycling moods because I don't think I'm myself if I don't sometimes tap into something I've had through my life, which is a creative reservoir of a superpower of intelligence. But it's also my super weakness by far. And to have the confidence to live my life again has been the place I've struggled the most for the last 2.5 years, 3 years. I make that video, again, July 23. I'm talking at that time, this is the third quarter of a dial-up plan. I'm talking about turning on puzzles again. I'm starting the first subscription on Grandmaster Puzzles, and that's a whole lot of work. And some of the stuff technically isn't where people are at, and everyone's expectations are out of the board. And so like my mood is getting high, like my sleep is going low. I'm doing excessive walking at night to just get my thoughts in order. All these are part of my prodrome of approaching a hypomanic into manic state. And I've had a lot of them through my life, maybe 2 dozen or so through my life, but that's not a good place to be. And so I say in that video where I know my creativity is coming back, my higher verbal, written, other ideas are coming back, like I'm in a state you should be watching out for me. And a few weeks later, my life goes off the rails. I am connecting with this video to a former coworker, and she responds back that it was great to hear from me, but her sister, who was someone I'd cared about because she was in a mental health sort of journey herself, had just died of an overdose. And my brain is going to weird places. Like, are these other people who haven't connected with me? Like, did they commit suicide? Why aren't they talking to me? All this stuff. Trying to like reinvent my own life. Like for 5 days, I'm off the grid in different ways, including extended driving to Southern California and back to my house in different spots. I don't want to go through all of this. There's kind of a weird thing that like I love looking back at some of this stuff and thinking I'm brilliant. I love that like somehow this starts, like why August 1st is the day that matters to me. August 1st was my mental health birthday, my manic birthday, where I decided to rewrite a Camus phrase to say aujourd'hui je suis né ou peut-être hier je ne sais pas. My mother didn't die yesterday or today. Like I was born today or yesterday. I don't know. Like that something new is there, and there's some form of one must imagine Thomas happy that's always been important through my life, and like maybe change the world and be changed by it. Maybe it's about when I was young, I was fascinated by Google 10 to the 100. When I was older, I was fascinated by Google, the company. I've never read Gogol. Thomas Snyder staff. I still never read Gogol. I want to have a good book recommendation by Gogol from someone on the stream to sort of help here. Like I don't want to romanticize a road trip, but there are thoughts in here I could pull out and say they matter to me in this age. Like this was the last season of Succession, and one of the things that to me at the time was fascinating about the character of Logan Roy that's not discussed enough is that in the last season it's revealed that he played Sudoku. The most fascinating thing is in the start of the series he had a stroke and recovered his health, but is that because of how he was keeping his brain active? Is it because of the doctors and other things around it? Like most people can't recover that way. And where I'm a few days from going back into a hospital and a year from where like even Will Short, someone I really respect as like a puzzle father and some things, goes through his own stroke, I've been watching him recover through his own ways by dedicating his mind and his attention to his rehabilitation. And like in some weird way, he and I connect in a mode that like when I was driving by a Starbucks and trying to make a connection to these things, I write about Sudoku I don't think Sudoku is in the top 100 most fascinating things in my life. I still can't accept Sudoku as still the most core part of my life, even if it's a different meaning of what it's doing for me. I'm struggling with so much. Like I go to Caltech, I want to get water from what I would have called the Milliken Pond. It's probably not like the Caltech Pond or something else, but like I go to the Hill Avenue Grace Lutheran Church and give myself a baptism while on campus. And I also leave a mental health bracelet as like the first coin in the Caltech puzzle hunt I'm writing. And the clue is go big, blank, blank, Feynman. If you know what that means, you know where to look. No one solved that puzzle hunt. So many times I'm manic, I'm writing puzzle hunts for maybe just me, but like I've written a lot of puzzles no one's ever solved. I've shared very few with the world. But like I unlock some creative aspect and can look at these pieces and see a creativity and see like this was a Barbie Oppenheimer weekend. I'm making a connection where I have an A negative blood type, so I'm not B or O, but I'm talking about Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm thinking about Kay Bird's book, which is a book I wanted to read before seeing Oppenheimer, and all this stuff. I'm also reconstructing my house by taking apart my lamps and putting them in the bottom of an umbrella and leaving all this detritus around it. I'm playing tic-tac-toe with my front window, which has 9 panels, and throwing stones through it. I am destroying parts of my house because I think I'm making an art project. I'm going to resell my house now as this brilliant genius's house. And I have Post-its all over. Like I'm leaving thoughts like around, like if you've seen the crazy moments where there are all these photos and the red string and other stuff, like I've lived that now in my life and it took forms like this. And I have to live with knowing I have that potential, also knowing that is not the Thomas I want to generally be. But this is like, I'm thankful that the police found me and again involuntarily committed me, because there was no other way this event in my maturity at 43 in this August was going to solve for. And so like I went through many months and starting with residential care and then other care. And like I have like different stories. I shared like the mask story about the emotions I keep inside versus the emotions I show. But understanding me means understanding my mask. And like art making here, like we had to make, for instance, on the right side, a album cover for your life. And so I was inspired by thinking of a Pearl Jam sign. I sort of split the Pearl Jam sign and then talked about every day I feel I have options in my life to kind of be more on the yield path versus more on the no limits path. But once you're on the no limits path, that gas is really nice to just hit. Your foot is on that accelerator pedal. There are no clouds. It's just sunshine and trees and flowers and like whew, no cars. But that's a two-track mind. Like I need to know the balance. I need to know from the dialectical behavioral therapy that the wise mind in the middle is recognizing you sometimes yield and you sometimes need to go fast, but you need to stay healthy and well. And so I didn't have like a good drafting tool here, and I didn't want to scan from paper. I tried to kind of graph a way to think about how I think about my mental states through the last 2 years. And August 23 is off of this chart. There's dangerous mania and psychosis. I may never prior in my life, even in prior hospitalizations, was that I had psychotic episodes. I had some psychosis at this time. And I don't want to have more breakthrough exacerbations of this level because those do destroy parts of the brain in a way that you may have more going forward. There's risk if you keep getting to these extremes. And so there's not even medication. Like I was not on maintenance therapy going in. I was not on rescue. They give you a ton of these drugs right away and you come down and it takes some time. And even when you come down, you sort of enter a little below this line. So this black line is where I should be, or at least where people would say I'm my best. It's not down, it's not high, it's euthymic, it's kind of in the middle. I had my first exacerbation back up, but milder. Again, like view this scale as high and this is kind of low. When running the WPC in Toronto as an organizer and dealing with having no team rounds at the start, and we remade all the things, and I had this over creative way I was leaving like little signs around the puzzle event in case we need to do an observational round later on. I could do filler, but notice like I knew I wasn't sleeping. I was taking an antipsychotic and sleep assisting drug at this time to make this happen, and afterwards I do recover. But I'm finally hitting the trough that a main event like this will be. I have basically a year-long depression. I won't sort of say how low below this line is. I don't want to show you the downs. We're focusing today on the ups because you experience the ups because that's when I'm very vocal and doing things. The Galactic Puzzle Hunt played over a weekend is the first time I had the first return to sort of some of these feelings, but it was a very short, bursty thing. Like I played it, didn't sleep much that weekend. I went on a flight to Seattle. I was reading a book, Silver Linings Playbook, which has a lot of the story of someone trying to rediscover their life, but also being bipolar but not admitting to having it and all this stuff. And so I had all these things in my head, and I sit down on a bench and I write out some thoughts, and I do sleep that night and it recovers. So getting thoughts out of my head is one thing I need to be able to do. But I'm basically back in the depression I was in before. And then I get this idea around October, November, as I'm first writing 90 puzzles a month with help of daily Sudoku to a partner. We're finally making money from doing that we have these extra puzzles. They'd be great to start to tell a new story of Sudoku. And I just get my own energy around this thing. And then I release some of these things. And then there's sort of different conversation around the thing. I start feeling a ton of stigma. And as that starts to do, I land in Buffalo to visit my dad. And my dad keeps his house at 80. And when I'm in a hypomanic state, my auditory senses are high and my thermal sensitivity is high. So I'm feeling like I'm burning. Everything like a ticking clock is driving me insane. The phone is ringing, and I've never been near a ringing phone for 2 years. Like this doesn't do anything. I'm not in a good state. I'm not yet prepared enough to know I should like have a hotel ready for these situations or have that stuff. I start my rescue medication a few days late, but I'm on it for most of this period. But the perception of this period was someone out of control. And for some of it, I was out of control. And for sure, like some friends and some interactions, some emails I wrote, like they were not awesome during this time. I burned or hurt different people in my life through this. And whatever your experience of these puzzles, I still stand by all the puzzles, but I don't want you to go back to how they were represented at that time. Because again, this is probably like compared to where I was at the year prior in 2023. This was also well above where I want to be. Like my zone is a little bit here to like about the line. So the next real sort of boost was at SudokuCon. It wasn't too high, it wasn't too low. I took some things to make sure I was sleeping during the trip, but I got to where I felt I had projects that could become fulfilling again. And that's been persistent throughout. Like I've never recovered all the way back to my middle ground, but I think it's because I'm smiling without being hypomanic. I haven't said that in years, where I've been happy, but not because my mood is separately in a weird place. And I have spikes like the Microsoft Puzzle Hunt. I can point to Ready Layer Cake with a spike. I have spikes like being at the NPL convention. I can point to other puzzles, like some of the ones this last week from there. But again, watch what I'm doing. I'm on maintenance medication this whole time. Lithium carbonate. One element, lithium, and then it's like an antipsychotic drug on top. When I need to control the dopamine because it might be going too fast, might be getting too much. I think I've learned a little bit. I think I continue to be learning, but I don't have the same risk that I had right after this event, that I was not going to be able to keep the rest of my life from having hospitalizations and imprisonments and whatever you want to call it. So my own takeaways for myself, but you can, if you just want to know sort of how my life lesson makes sense across things I'm doing for the rest of my life, helping those with mental illness is the top of that list. This can take many forms and at many times, but it's not like I'm studying cancer research now or autoimmune research right now. If I can make it be about brain science and neuroscience and neuropsychiatric conditions, that's what I want to be doing. If I can build back to doing that. But I will reflect that a lot of people who I know work in puzzles or solve puzzles have related issues with depression, bipolar, or other neurodivergent conditions or situations. Like, I don't like calling these disorders if they don't influence someone's ability to work and interact socially, because they're probably not disorders, but they are sort of them at themselves. And me at myself has ups and downs, but I've got some boundaries. I don't go above this line. Let me just make it work for the camera. I don't go above this line or below this line. Like, mania is here. You can't see where my hand is, but it's definitely go gadget hand. Like, it's well away from the top. Like, this is what it means to manage that. And so one of the things I know is that I saw this with the stigma I felt in late December, where I was hoping people would really love the Sudoku and start talking about the Sudoku. And actually, still people don't really talk about the classic Sudoku. It's a very hard thing when people don't know it as much in the Western world. People are talking about, is Thomas okay? Can someone call Thomas? Does someone know where he lives to send? You should not be trying to SWAT me or send the police to my house. There are friends who are watching out for me, but for sure there's a different way. I need to myself remove from emotional engagement when I'm at a time I need to just have some calm and peace. In the same way, I don't read email after 6 p.m. I don't have a phone that rings. Like, maybe for you, not even with a latent mental illness condition, the level to which you have a brain that's constantly interrupted and stressed, it's not healthy for you to stay in. Like, I've taken actions, including sometimes just saying for the next few days, unless it's an emergency, I'm probably not going to be on this channel. Others can cover for me. Like, one way to watch out for me is to not just be so selfless. I'm always helping others. Like, sometimes I need to let others help me. And you're seeing that somewhat in how the GMPuzzles team is working now. And it's not just me on the team that needs this help in this way, but I'm the one that's going to be forward and transparent about my condition and things I've worked through. This is what that looks like. I may give a post, and this is a post when I was in the Minneapolis Institute of Art near another olive tree painting, also by Van Gogh, also in 1889. This, I think, more in the late fall, like October, November. This outdoors when it was painted. Quick note, I'm doing well, but the end of every calendar month is when our large partner deliverables sneak up on me. I do not expect as much presence on Discord until August 1st or sometimes after. Like, there's a place, if you're concerned, you could even chat back to me here, but I'm offline for a reason. It's not because I want you all to solve a puzzle hunt. Like, I'm doing creative things with the work, but they're in a different mentality than where I was at in December 2024. And I do want to take some accountability. I don't know all the ways your experience of this puzzles was awful or anything else because of the story around it. And maybe you still hate the AI story or anything else. I'm trying to do something different with the storytelling. And I was trying to be direct in my mental health experience with some of the puzzles I was writing, but I think I took it far too far. And there's a comment, I think it was on the Ready Layer 1 post itself. I don't think it was somewhere else. It was about a Penn and Teller gag where Teller is basically in a straitjacket and a water tank or a tank that's getting filled with water, and you slowly sort of sense that he's drowning, and then he stops moving, and then still more time is going and no one's sort of doing anything, and you lose the sense of if this is a trick anymore. And my whole life is going to feel like that, but there are some boundaries I can put around it to say, like, I now am thinking about my condition in a way that I have a team around it. I have medication plans. When I'm traveling to, like, the World Puzzle Champion in September, I've got a goal time to be asleep, or I'm gonna go to a sleep medication if I just like if the jet lag isn't working for me. Because like a night without sleep is awful, and it's like kindling that starts to have a little bit of a spark. Like I know things to avoid, and I was able to go to the Beijing, China WPC last year and be fine. I got like sickness from a from infection, but I didn't have my brain sort of misactivate. Um, so like some of this is there. I want to go tell you like the new picture of a sabbatical year. And historically, I would have said Sudoku doesn't matter to me in a full sense, or it's just it's a side thing. Like puzzles might matter, but science is the thing. Sudoku is now like the adjective for all the work I want to do. I want to do Sudoku science. What does that mean? Like how people learn or think or how they engage with games is some form of their mental health and how their brain is functioning at that time. If this is with a child and it's how neurodevelopment is happening in the correct way or not in a correct way, maybe there's something to be doing with the kinds of people I'm working with at the Allen Institute in Seattle for that. Maybe if it's tracking sort of how people as they age continue to play Sudoku. Like I'm just solving the gas every day because I was watching at the end of August. My solves were horrible. I made errors in two puzzles. I was like slow and mistyping a lot more than other times. Like I knew I needed to stop solving the gas puzzles too. I'm just not in a state right now that we can stop putting my time against them. But if I was saying, look at how I'm doing by stress, by sleep, by cognition for the last 3 months, my gas times and how I would see them are pretty good for that. Unfortunately, the puzzles aren't the same every day. So eventually I want to be a classic Sudoku anonymized I can do every day, but I also need like Sudoku Pad or whatever data collection tool to be far better before I do data science in that mode. The dark purple is the most important one for me now, mental health and happiness. Like mental health is expressed through the puzzles I make, but sometimes doing those in a good way and certainly for the right reasons, I can feel good about my life again and feeling good about parts of my life. I've made myself healthier and I'm not really watching the world. I can't think about what's happening to science in general or other places, but I can at least say, watch out for myself now, go through this year and see how some of the things I'm making or writing can help others. If even 10 people are loving the Grandmaster puzzles and a whole number of people on LinkedIn loving those puzzles 6 months from now, that's certainly something we've done. And puzzles get me back to social connection, which is one of the core, even separate from being bipolar. My social loneliness is probably my biggest limitation in my life and what brings me the most grief. And yeah, the doku of Sudoku is being a bachelor. Dokushin means bachelor. Um, Puzzles bring me connection. Being at NPLCon, if you want to say, like, should I go? Maybe there's a different comment about like, should I solve the galactic puzzle hunt by myself over a weekend? Like this spike I could have avoided, but like I don't view the SudokuCon as an unhealthy spike per se. But that I'm going from a mostly lonely week where I talk to one person during the week, and I'm around 100 folks who all want to meet me. Some of this is about social distolerance that's happened over the time since the pandemic. That I have to get more used to being around people again, and not just at conventions. Um, the one thing to say for sure is we're finally financially successful in puzzles. That's the upper right here. I can do just Sudoku for this year, probably for many years, and not have to do extra things. But I'm still doing some consulting hours in science because I think there's something to still connect across all of this. Sudoku is my paint. Sudoku is my medicine. Sudoku is my data. Sudoku is my income. It's a year of doing this and we don't know what follows, but the year is serious about doing everything new, anything new that we can do there. And it's not yet about looking back at this grid, because this grid is again the one I want to apologize for. Not because the puzzle's bad, the puzzle's awesome, it has 3 answers at least, you'll love doing it eventually. It was not presented in the right time and in the right way, and it's not meant to be looked at right now. I'm going to figure out if and when I want to repackage it. I'm very deliberate about saying April 2025 forward is the only stuff to watch for. That's when my life took a different bit of a turn. That's when SudokuCon kind of put me on this recent trajectory where I've been quite excited. And again, it puts me to this place where I hope I never have to relive what August 1st was like. August 1st through 5th, and that last hospitalization where I felt destroying my house was as important as anything else for this Dr. Sudoku. But I'm taking off the mask. This is 2 years healthy. We'll be back at 3 years healthy and 4 years healthy and 5 years healthy if I can reach those years. And if not, I at least know groups like NAMI, my psychiatrist, my therapist, my friends, certainly a lot of people now with lived experience that have helped me. If there's any way you think I could help you to just even talk through your own challenges, find a way to reach out to me and we'll have that conversation. That's today in Sudoku, and thanks for listening.